Chloe had been experiencing symptoms of depression for several months. She felt persistent sadness, a loss of interest in activities she once enjoyed, and often struggled with low energy. When she sought help, the explanations often revolved around brain chemistry imbalances and neurological factors. However, Chloe felt that while these might play a role, they didn't fully capture the impact of her life circumstances and experiences on her mental state. Have you ever felt that explanations of mental health conditions focus too narrowly on the brain, perhaps overlooking other significant factors? Chloe's feeling resonates with a growing movement in mental health that advocates for a more holistic understanding of conditions like depression, one that considers not just the brain but also the intricate interplay of psychological, social, and environmental factors. The assertion that depression has nothing to do with your brain is likely an overstatement, as the brain is undoubtedly involved in mood regulation. However, the point might be to emphasize that focusing solely on the brain provides an incomplete picture. The predominant neurobiological model of depression. A brief overview. Currently, a dominant model of depression emphasizes neurobiological factors, particularly imbalances in neurotransmitters like serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine. This chemical imbalance theory has influenced both research and treatment approaches. Neurotransmitter hypothesis. This theory suggests that deficiencies or dysregulation in these neurotransmitters contribute to the symptoms of depression. Brain structure and function. Neuroimaging studies have also identified differences in the structure and function of certain brain regions in individuals with depression, such as the prefrontal cortex, hippocampus, and amygdala. Challenging the solely brain-centric view. Where does the idea that depression has nothing to do with your brain come from, and what scientific arguments support a broader perspective? The limitations of the chemical imbalance theory. Some researchers argue that the chemical imbalance theory is overly simplistic and not fully supported by the evidence. While antidepressants that affect neurotransmitter levels can be effective for some, they don't work for everyone, and their mechanisms of action are more complex than simply fixing a deficiency. Scientific nuance. The precise role of neurotransmitters in depression is still being investigated, and the relationship is likely more intricate than a simple imbalance. The role of psychological factors, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and other psychotherapies, which focus on thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, are often highly effective in treating depression, suggesting that psychological processes play a significant role beyond just brain chemistry. Mind-body connection. Psychological experiences can indeed influence brain function, highlighting the interconnectedness. The impact of social and environmental factors. Social isolation, trauma, adversity, and chronic stress are well-known risk factors for depression, indicating that our external world and social connections profoundly impact our mental well-being. Social determinants of health. These factors emphasize how our environment and social circumstances can shape our health, including mental health. The gut-brain axis. Emerging research highlights the bidirectional communication between the gut and the brain. The gut microbiome, for example, can influence mood and behavior, suggesting that factors outside the brain directly impact mental states. Microbiota gut-brain axis. This complex system involves neural, hormonal, and immunological pathways. Chloe felt strongly that her social isolation and past difficult experiences were major contributors to her depression. Scientific studies supporting a broader view. Let's look at some scientific areas that support a more holistic understanding of depression. Psychotherapy research. Numerous studies have demonstrated the efficacy of various forms of psychotherapy in treating depression, often leading to lasting changes in mood and behavior. These therapies primarily target psychological processes. Social neuroscience. This field examines how social interactions and the social environment affect the brain and behavior. Research shows that social support can buffer against depression, while isolation can increase risk. Gut microbiome research. Studies are increasingly finding links between the composition of the gut microbiome and mental health conditions like depression. Some interventions targeting the gut have shown promise in alleviating symptoms. Stress research. Chronic stress has been consistently linked to an increased risk of depression, and the biological mechanisms involve complex interactions between the brain, endocrine system, and immune system. A more integrated model, instead of saying depression has nothing to do with your brain, a more accurate statement might be that depression is a complex condition arising from the interplay of biological, including brain function, psychological, social, and environmental factors. Focusing solely on one aspect provides an incomplete picture and potentially limits effective treatment. Chloe's journey. While Chloe eventually benefited from medication that likely influenced her brain chemistry, she found the most profound and lasting relief through therapy that helped her address her social isolation, process past experiences, and develop healthier coping mechanisms. This highlighted for her the importance of factors beyond just her brain. If you are experiencing symptoms of depression, consider seeking support that addresses the various aspects of your well-being, including psychological, social, and potentially biological factors. The perplexity of mental illness. The exact causes and mechanisms of mental illnesses like depression are often complex and not fully understood, requiring ongoing research from multiple perspectives. Summarized conclusion. Beyond a solely brain-centric view of depression, the idea that depression has nothing to do with your brain is likely an overstatement, as the brain is undoubtedly involved in mood regulation. However, a significant body of scientific research supports a broader, more holistic understanding of depression that goes beyond solely focusing on brain chemistry or neurological factors. Psychological processes, social connections, environmental influences, and even the gut microbiome play crucial roles in the development and experience of depression. Effective approaches to understanding and treating depression often involve considering this complex interplay of factors.